welcome. You are watching ＳիվիլNet TV. My name is Mishak Khazarian, and we are coming to you from the Ministry of the Diaspora with newly appointed Minister of the Diaspora, Old-Mkhitar Hayrapetyan. Old-Mkhitar, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's a little too early to ask you specific policies that the ministry is going to go forward with, as it is your first day here on the job. However, we wanted to ask that as many of the diaspora are curious and wondering, is the Ministry of the Diaspora important? If Armenia just was in a stronger place economically, that the ministry wouldn't be necessary. What is your response to that type of statement?
Yeah, actually there have been such discussions for many years till now. And of course I can understand this point, because to me Ministry of Diaspora hasn't been so much productive previously. But I think that if we have the policy to increase the population of Armenia through asking our Armenian people from diaspora living abroad to come back, to live here, to invest here, to be integrated here. We need to create the atmosphere for their return back home. I think that this is one of the most important ministries in Armenia, but if we work in a professional way, if and the government, only professionals are of course trying to have both the experience of all people who have this experience, but also to mix it with the youngsters who has the energy, who has new and creative ideas. Yeah, so to me, we have a lot of work to do to prove that that this ministry this institution has the importance and has a lot to do to organize to organize immigration of millions of Armenians. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. As you mentioned there, as there is a larger plan with the repatriation of Armenians, certainly this means working with other ministries. And so do you know many of the other ministers that have been appointed? Because in many ways to do this job, it sounds like it will not just be the Ministry of the Diaspora, but it will be other ministries as well working together.
Yeah, yesterday we had the first meeting with the Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and other ministers, and I'm in touch with most of other ministers. So yes, and in this case, I'm sure we are going to work with each other and very actively in daily work. I mean, you know, when we talk about how to create this atmosphere for the Armenians living in the diaspora to ask them come back home, we need to create equal opportunities for each businessman and investors. We need to create the country of law. So only the Ministry of Diaspora isn't able physically, isn't able to do so, but all the government will do their best to do so.
And as you're working, you've mentioned a couple things of working with the diaspora to be able to bring them in. You've also mentioned working here with the ministries. Who is your constituency in your role? Is it the Armenians in the diaspora that are looking to engage with Armenia, or is it Armenia looking to engage with the diasporans? How do you identify your constituency?
I would identify it as for both, of course. So in our scope, we are taking both sides, the Armenians living abroad and the Armenians who would love to be engaged somehow with the Armenians in diaspora. But I would like to add also not only Armenians, for example, Yazidis and the other nations who has the Armenian passport, they are the citizens of Armenia, but they are living abroad, but they have the will to be back home, Armenia, who consider Armenia as a home. So it's not only about Armenians as well, it's about both Armenians and the diaspora and the citizens of Armenia.
Interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned that. One of the things that we also wanted to ask is how you see the diasporan groups. Usually, I think when you have discussions with people, diasporan groups are segmented into the post-genocide sort of Western Armenia diasporan community. There's the specifically there's the diaspora of the Soviet Armenia, and then there's the diasporans from independence. Do you see any difference between these groups?
This is my personal opinion. Separate this into two groups, like the first group and the second and third group mixed, because I have contacted and I work with many communities in the diaspora, and I have the feeling that unfortunately there is such a situation like we and you, us and you, and the people who are coming from after the genocide, even during the Soviet Union, and the people who are newly immigrated there. So they have some miscommunications, misunderstandings. It's also about the principles, let's say, about the views of generations. So I would separate it into two, but it's about only technical part. For us, the diaspora is unity for us. I mean, we are not going to separate, and we will do our best also to unite all of them living throughout the whole world. I mean, this is also a stereotype there that they are not able to work together. You know, for example, there is a city where you can find even 2 or 3 Armenian communities, and they are not negotiating, they are not cooperating with each other, they are not working with each other, you know. And there are many difficulties. So for us as a mission, as one of the mission also to solve lots of the problems that they have in their communities, of course working with both sides or with many sides.
And in that vein, you mentioned understanding that there's certain communities that have difficulty working together. Can you tell us what experience you have in working with some of these diasporan organizations throughout your time in professional life?
I have been the coordinator of the, I've coordinated all the stuff related to the relations with diaspora, with Armenian communities for 2-3 years inside the civil contract political party. You know, the head of the party is Nikol Pashinyan. So I'm aware of the problems related to the relations between the Republic of Armenia and the diaspora, and I also have some. I can imagine myself which could be the solutions. But of course, I'm going to have many consultations, discussions, meetings, starting from even from Friday when it was announced about my, So of course, we are going to be open for the suggestions from diaspora and also from the people who are living here, but they are aware about the problems and solutions, and they have lots of suggestions around this. So yeah, I'm very positively looking at the future. So we are also working to improve right now the relations both with the diaspora communities and even with the media representatives who have been worked with our ministry, and let's say they are not so much satisfied.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much for taking this time with us here at CivilNet. We appreciate you giving us this interview. Hopefully this could be the beginning of some regular conversations that we have with you, as well as to be able to present to the diaspora and the international community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, you have been watching CivilNet TV. We just had a conversation with the new Minister of the Diaspora, Old-Mkhitar Hayrapetyan. Thank you again for watching, and we will be back with you soon.